welcome to Senior Flicks. So today the subject is food, and so Food Tales, that's the segment that we're in. And today we have Penny Seymour who's here to talk about food. Penny is an expert on food. So Penny, tell us about your dish.
I have brought you a beautiful English roast beef Sunday lunch. It consists, of course, of roast beef, but mostly the difference is Yorkshire pudding and roast potatoes, or you can have boiled, and roast or boiled vegetables, and of course the beef. And the gravy is important because it's made from the juice of the meat. Most English pubs and restaurants have it on their menus on Sundays.
So Penny, tell us, what was the origin of this type of dish, this type of food?
Well, it originated in Yorkshire, but I think at that time everybody in Europe had a roast Sunday lunch, but the roast beef Sunday lunch is unique to Britain.
Yeah, and so I understand that Sunday lunch, going back, traditionally was quite a large meal. What was that about there?
Well, the reason was that especially Roman Catholics and Anglicans used to fast on Fridays, hence fish and chips, and then they used to fast also before they went to church. So by the time they'd been to church, they were really hungry, so they wanted meat, which was more plentiful in those days, and they would eat meat after lunch after church on Sunday.
So the preparation of that meal, that was quite involved, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a very special meal. It takes a while to cook. So what they used to do is they used to put the meat in the oven when they got up, and then they'd put the vegetables in the oven as they went to church. And then by the time they came back from church, it was all ready, and they just had to make the gravy, which has to be from the meat juices, otherwise it won't taste as good. It's no good out of the packet.
Okay, so
in the industrial age, the people who didn't have ovens or fireplaces, they used to take their roast beef and take it to the baker's, because the baker didn't bake on a Sunday. So they would bake it, he would bake it for them while they were at church, and then they'd pick it up on the way back from church. There is a story that in medieval times, the serfs who used to serve the squire for 6 days a week would go into the fields after church on Sunday, and they would practice their battle techniques, and they were rewarded then with oxen on a spit. Well, that's the story, but it's not a proven fact.
So there's a lot more then behind Sunday lunch than just meets the eye, eh, Penny?
Oh, yes.
This goes back a long way, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah. Well, medieval's a long way. Also, I think King George VII, his royal guard used to eat a lot of meat, but they used to eat it after lunch on Sunday, and that's why they ended up being called the beef eaters.
The beef eaters. Isn't that interesting?
I
Yeah.
know. Outside the Tower of London, walking round.
Yeah. Well, that was something I've just learned, because I've known of beef eaters all my life, because whether you know it or not, I grew up in England, and
Yes.
so I've heard about beef eaters. So that was part of the origin of that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And originally, I think in some places anyway, they used to have the Yorkshire pudding and the gravy as a starter, because they didn't want anybody to eat too much meat. Now we're back to not eating too much meat again.
Yeah, that's right. We're getting back to where we should be, perhaps should have been years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a very special meal, and it takes a lot of preparation.
Yeah.
And it needs to be eaten at a dining room table, not in front of the TV.
Okay. So
That's not a rule, but I just made
so now
that
tell
up.
me this, Penny. A few weeks ago, I was visiting my daughter, and she gave me some Yorkshire pudding, which she said she had bought frozen. Is that acceptable, or in your?
Well, it wouldn't be acceptable to me, you know.
There we go. Well, I told her, this was not what I'm used to. However, you know.
Yeah, and now they make them in rounds instead of originally it was in a big baking sheet and you just sliced it up.
I sort of recall that's how my mother used
Yeah,
to make it,
yeah.
but we needn't talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting.
Well, I got the recipe for, because I didn't get it from my mother, but I got the recipe for the Yorkshire puddings from Mrs. Beaton's cookbook.
Mrs. Beaton's cookbook. Because Yorkshire pudding is such, it's not really a very complex food, is it?
Oh no, it's just
It's the same ingredients as pancakes, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So really it's a pancake.
Yeah, but it's something else that makes the Yorkshire pudding taste good, isn't it? So what is it that makes it taste good?
The rest of the meal. The beef, and mostly the beef and the gravy.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Otherwise it's quite bland, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my story of the English roast beef Sunday lunch.
Well, that's excellent. Very good, Penny. Glad to have you as a neighbour. So if I get, anyway, I can refer. That's good.
I may never make it again.
No, she says. Okay. No. Okay, well, that's good. Well, thanks very much, Penny. That's been very informative, and I must say, as an ex-Englishman, I've learned something today, even about English history. So that was a side benefit I get from this. Okay, so Penny, so thanks very much for this. It's been very interesting and informative. So now, tell us a little bit about yourself. How do you sort of put that into practice today, for example, or what?
I don't put it into practice because there's only me living at Shepherd Village, which, by the way, is a wonderful place.
Yeah. How long have you lived here?
I've lived here 6 years now, and I loved every minute of it. It really is good. And I came to Canada in 1987. I had to do 3 years as a nanny before I could go back to being a secretary, which was my job. And I met a delightful man and got married. Unfortunately, he passed, but and then I thought I would be ahead of myself, and as soon as I was 65, well, actually I was 68, I decided to move here. Actually, it was more than that. It was 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay. Okay. Well, that's excellent. Okay, Penny, well, thanks very much, and this is much appreciated on behalf of Senior Flex. Thank you.
Thank you for including me.